I'm Ann Loader.
And I'm Jeff Groves, and welcome to this month's edition of Police Beat.
Here we are, Jeff, in the dreaded auto body shop yard where anybody's vehicle could end up after a little collision on the street.
And that's one thing that seems to be happening quite frequently here in Fort Collins. We had over 5,000 accidents in 1996 in Fort Collins, and we'll probably have roughly the same number in 1997, although we'd like to reduce that. But the accidents seem to happen no matter whether it's dry roads or whether it's snow roads.
That's right, Jeff. And we're going to help you with this show from the point of when the accident occurs to the time your car is towed away to a body shop like this, to help you go through your accident process better, because we know it's very traumatic.
Can be very traumatic, very emotional, and hopefully some of the information that we'll give you during this month's show will be of assistance if you should happen to be involved in an accident.
So first off, Jeff, what is a motor vehicle accident?
Well, Ann, a motor vehicle accident is an unintentional act, first of all. And it's what happens when you cause damage to personal injury, such as personal injury. Yeah, that'll work. Or property damage to another car, your own car, or a fence or a post or whatever. And it's due to the direct or indirect movement of an automobile. That's what qualifies as an accident.
Okay, once citizens have an accident, whether they're alone in their car with no other cars or there's two or more cars involved, what's the first thing they should do?
Well, the first thing you should do is check for any injuries. Make sure no one in your car is hurt, or you make sure that no one in the other cars are hurt. Then after that, we would recommend that you look for your driver's license, registration, and your proof of auto insurance in your car. And once you have those, get out of your car, get away from your car, wherever the accident is, to the side of the road or the curb, because you could be involved in another accident from somebody coming up behind and not realizing that there is an accident in front of them and rear-ending your car after you've already been in one, and you could be hurt again. So we'd prefer that you not stand outside your car or around or anything like that, but get the information that's going to be needed for the police officers, get to the side of the road, and wait there.
Okay, and once they call for the police officers or have someone else passing by call, what should they move their vehicles? A lot of people always want to know, can we move our cars?
Well, we'd really prefer that you don't move the car until at least one police officer gets on scene, because what it does is it's evidence for us to try and determine what happened actually in the accident. But there are circumstances where you become more of a hazard by leaving your car where it's at than if it is drivable to move it a little bit. And in those instances, it's okay.
So Jeff, once somebody has called the dispatchers, I know they need to advise what the location is of their accident, how many cars are involved, if there's any injuries, give them all the basics. I know the police officer's coming to see me to help me with my accident. What are you going to be asking me? What are you going to be looking for?
Well, one of the first things the officer's going to do when he arrives on scene is he's actually going to look the scene over without even talking to you initially. He's going to make sure, of course, that nobody's injured. But once that's done, he's going to walk around and take a look at the scene, look at the damage on the cars, look for any skid marks, look for debris on the road, and kind of formulate in his mind an idea of where each car came from and how the accident happened. Then he's going to go over and look for any witnesses. And if you can help him by finding any witnesses prior to the officer's arrival, that's wonderful. And we'd like to have him stay until at least the first police officer arrives on the scene. Then once we talk to them and get their name and stuff, then we can go ahead and give them a witness statement, and they can take them with them and go home and fill it out later. So we don't want to keep them too long at the scene if they're going to stay and be nice enough to be a witness for us.
Right.
So once we have the witnesses and we've talked to them, then we'll probably come and talk to you individually, away from the other driver of the car, and ask you what happened from your vantage point.
I know the first thing that the people need to hand a police officer is their proof of insurance, their registration, and their driver's license.
Right.
I think the citizens probably need to know that we have a long form to fill out, and that's why we have to take a while with an accident.
Well,
why don't you
point
out some things that we have to fill out for the state?
Anytime the damage is in excess of about $1,000 in a motor vehicle accident, and believe me, from talking to the people here at Import Auto, it doesn't take very much to reach $1,000 damage on an automobile. The police officer has to use this particular form that doesn't say counter report on it. That's for when you go to the station to do it. But he has to use this same form, and it lists some pretty detailed information as far as your name, address, phone number, date, location, time, VIN number, color description of your car, policy number for your insurance company, expiration date, just all kinds of info has to go on one of these forms. And it takes quite a while to fill one
It
out.
sure does.
As a matter of fact, an accident takes usually pretty much anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour of an officer's time to complete it properly. So we're going to ask you for those things that Ann just brought up: driver's license, registration, and proof of auto insurance. And it must be an up-to-date auto insurance proof form. They vary from company to company, but all of them that do business in Colorado know that they have to have the form, and it has to show the policy dates on the form. The officers won't take a form that says insurance good from 9/1/96 to termination.
Right.
They won't take a form that shows anything else. It has to show both the beginning and ending policy date for them to be acceptable. If you don't have that, form number 2. And you end up filling out a special form to the state of Colorado, which is one of these. A little bit shorter, but in fact, it's even more detailed. And you have to fill one of these out only if your proof of insurance is not valid at the time of the accident. You may also get a ticket too.
That's right. Now, I know one form that the drivers involved in the accident are filling out is the motor vehicle accident driver exchange form, so that they can know about each other once the police officer leaves. And that's very simple.
One of these handy little forms. Sometimes the officer will fill it out for you. Most of the time we have each citizen fill one out. So you don't have to worry about exchanging names with the other person. The officer will see that it's done as part of the daily routine in doing the motor vehicle accident. And it'll include the insurance company, the policy number, and the agent's name for you. These are kind of old forms. They say that if you're involved in an accident, everybody has to fill out one of these non-insurance forms. That's not true anymore. We just haven't modified the form yet, so don't worry about it. Only if you don't have proof of insurance do you have to fill out the other form, and we'll give it to you.
Now, besides all the witnesses filling out witness statements, also all drivers, we want them to fill out so we can have each version of what the driver says happened, because a lot of times we hear two sides of the story.
And sometimes those stories tend to change between now and later on.
Right.
So we try and have a driver fill out a witness statement too.
You mentioned something that they may wonder about out there in the public land is counter report. When can they go to the counter rather than wait for us at the accident?
Well, there is that what they call accident alert situation. And Fort Collins used that very sparingly during the last year. We prefer not to use it, in fact. Even on these busy snowstorm days, we still believe that if your accident is on the public streets rather than in parking lots, we'd prefer to have an officer come and investigate it. There are times, though, that we do activate the accident alert, and when that is in effect, if it's a non-injury accident, if there is no alcohol involved and it's not real extensive damage and the cars can't be driven away, you can come down to the police department at your earliest convenience, not within 12 hours or 24 hours, but as soon as you possibly can get to the police department and fill out a counter report.
So, Jeff, I'm a citizen out there driving along and I run into a pole. It's just me. I'm the only one around. Why do I have to call the police?
Because state law says that you have caused damage. It can be even to your own automobile that the damage occurs to. You may have also caused damage to the telephone pole or whatever else you hit that belongs to someone else. But the fact that it's your own vehicle that's damaged and nothing else, that doesn't relieve you of the responsibility to notify the police of the accident.
Do I have to wait there for the police, or is that something I can do counter report wise?
You should wait there for the police.
Okay. How about I've been shopping all day, I come out in the parking lot, somebody does a fender bender with me. What happens? It's private property.
Well, a lot of people get a little bit confused that, like Foothills Fashion Mall, even though it's a public area in some ways, it's still private property. And so is King Soopers lots and Safeway lots and that type of situation. And those still need to be reported to the police. Currently, Fort Collins Police Department's policy is that unless, again, if there's injury or alcohol or serious damage involved, that we do not respond to private property accidents. And we ask that you and the other driver both come down to the police department together if you can, or at least as soon as you possibly can, to report the accident at the counter.
So, Jeff, the police officer is just winding up the investigation at the scene of the motor vehicle accident. What should the people still on scene be ready for?
Well, the final thing that's going to happen most likely is that one or more tickets will be issued to one or more drivers for some type of violations that occurred that the accident was the end result.
So are you trying to tell me, though, that just because you might have run the red light and ran into me and you're going to get a ticket for the red light, I could still get a ticket for like not having proof of insurance or something, even though it wasn't my fault.
Absolutely.
Or I wasn't the cause.
That's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely. Even something else like seat belts, we enforce very heavily in Fort Collins. And the fact is that the police don't determine who's at fault, that little word you
Yes.
used. And what it amounts to is that we only determine where a traffic violation has been committed that was a causative factor in the accident. And that could happen for one or more drivers. Then the insurance companies take that information and they're the ones that determine fault. That is, whose insurance or who's going to be liable for the damages. And there is a thing called comparative negligence where even both drivers can be responsible for a percentage of the damages to both cars.
So you handed me a ticket. Can I mail it in and take care of it, or do I have to go to court?
Well, that's exactly a very good question, Ann, because a lot of people think that they can mail in all fines on all tickets that are issued to them by officers. And in this case, you can't. An accident ticket is a mandatory court appearance, both in City of Fort Collins Municipal Court and in Larimer County Court. And you could be summoned into either court, depending on if there's additional charges. For example, if you happen to be driving without a valid driver's license, or you're under suspension, and you also made a left turn in front of oncoming traffic, since the City of Fort Collins doesn't have an ordinance covering driver's licenses, you would be summoned for both charges into county court. On the other hand, if it's just a simple red light or stop sign violation, you would be summoned into City of Fort Collins Municipal Court. They're both in the same building. Well, Ann, we've had an interesting discussion about accidents during this month's Police Beat.
You're right, Jeff. Even the small ones hurt.
Yes, they do.
But we hope this show helped you understand a little bit more about what it takes to investigate the scene of an accident, and hopefully it will help you through it a lot better since you know this information.
We'd like to have you stick around for this for next month's show. We're going to be having Fort Collins' new police chief as our guest, so tune in. Thank you for watching.
And keep those seatbelts buckled out there.